Hi, everybody. Welcome to your weekly meditation. I'm Seth, and I received a question in the comments about addiction. And the question was, can I talk about addiction, not just addiction like alcohol addiction or drug addiction, but to talk about addictions of the mind, more subtle addictions, emotional, mental addictions. So there's a couple things that I can say about addiction. Um, One of the things that I wanted to say is that addictions sometimes are a compensation pattern. An addiction can be a way of doing things that you've just done on repeat to the point that you just kind of keep doing it as a default. And again, this could be an emotional pattern. This could be, right, the feeling that you're not good enough, that you need to do something to be good enough, you need to give something, to be something, to function in a certain way to be good enough. And that could be something you've carried on from your childhood and you just keep doing it. And you're kind of addicted to that, right? You're addicted to that feeling. You almost feel incomplete unless you feel not good enough, unless that kind of feeling can get validated back to you, right? So there's kind of these like emotional pattern addictions that some people can have. And there's also something like addictions in terms of like a routine, like a certain way of doing things every day, that you're almost addicted to a certain kind of schedule or pattern. The way that you drive to work could be an addiction. You know, you need to go this way, you can't go the other way. That if you try to change it up, something feels off, something feels not right. You can't really quite do it. You need to keep doing it the same way, so it makes sense. But I think the real kind of addiction that I'd like to get into would be the mind thinking that it needs something else to be okay, right? So if you think about an addiction in terms of like drinking, right, or drugs, or sex, right, something that you feel kind of in your basic neutral normal state that something is missing. You feel that you need to drink, you need to smoke, you need something to make you feel complete. You need something to get your happiness from, right? As if the happiness can only be found in one way. And the brain also kind of grows into a way that supports that, right? That your receptors kind of start growing together to the point that a lot of people that have addiction also have depression because their brain only can start to find happiness. You can only feel any kind of pleasure through doing this one act, right? Through drinking, through doing drugs. So addiction really also narrows your focus about what you can find happiness and pleasure from. But if you kind of step back and look at that, it's really the mind not believing that happiness is available. It's the mind not knowing that everything is okay, that it can feel peace and it can feel that happiness, those pleasurable and positive feelings, just by being in the present moment. So another addiction that a lot of us suffer from, therefore, is thinking, overthinking. That really we're addicted to thoughts. We're addicted to thoughts to make us feel like we have some kind of control over things, right? We're addicted to thoughts because then they can bring us into fantasies. We're addicted to thoughts because they can obsess about things from the past and give us the sense that, we're not going to make the same mistake twice, or like I was saying before, maybe our thoughts reinforce this feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough, right? This regret that maybe we have, or guilt about something we did, or a feeling of like being disempowered, right? Remembering again and again an argument that we lost. And, the way that we use our thoughts, it's really this trying to get some kind of grasp, some kind of control. If you look at the thoughts, you can really see what it is that they're trying to get all the time. Are the thoughts just trying to stay busy because when I'm busy, I feel like I'm accomplishing something, right? Because I need to feel like accomplished. I saw a lot of times, when people had cell phone games, right? They had games on their iPhones, and they'd be playing these games, and they'd, be, growing a battle character or like a farm or something. They'd just be doing this thing again and again and again. And when I really felt into what is that about, what is those, games about on the phone, it's actually that the people feel like they're accomplishing something, right? That, each time I shoot this thing and I get more points, I'm like getting something. I get more coins, I'm getting something. And it's this very empty thing because you're not actually getting anything. But that feeling, that emotional, that mental, that psychological feeling of getting something, of progressing, is something that a lot of people strive for. They want to feel like they're getting somewhere. And that's also why when people try to meditate often, they get frustrated, it doesn't really work, they give up. Because when you try to meditate, you're kind of just hit up against the wall of your own karma, your own thoughts, your own feelings, the stuff that's going on. And you don't get that feeling you wanted, like you've really achieved anything. And again, because this is the wrong understanding, you don't feel that you've achieved anything, so you think this thing's not worth my time. Psychologically, right? It makes you feel bad about yourself, so you try to throw it away. So when I say that the mind doesn't know that happiness is available in the present moment, this is something that I myself really had to go through and learn. And when I was still a monk, I spent some time in Plum Village with Thich Nhat Hanh and their community there, their center. And I had this opportunity one night that I was taken by a monk and I went to see Thich Nhat Hanh's hermitage. And he showed me the printing press that Thich Nhat Hanh, was turning out these poems a long time ago that he would send to prisoners of war to help kind of re-inspire their hearts. And he showed me like the stairs that Thich Nhat Hanh would walk up to his bedroom every day. And, this monk turned to me and he's like, Thai has never neglected one of these stairs, right? So every stair that he stepped on, he did with mindfulness, right? And then I was taken to the kitchen, and it was this really beautiful kind of just deep, it was like these stone tiles floor and like a hearth and a fireplace, and the kitchen just had a depth to it, and it felt like we were 100 miles under the earth, right? There was just something about the presence in this old kind of kitchen. And I ended up writing a letter to Thich Nhat Hanh, and I said, I understand you now. I understand what you're trying to teach. And you're actually trying to teach this deep sense of presence, that this deep sense of being is actually the point. And the next day, Thich Nhat Hanh's attendant came to me and he said, Thai would like to have dinner with you tomorrow night. So I was called for like an audience with Thich Nhat Hanh, right? So I go to Thich Nhat Hanh's hut, and the first thing I see is he's sitting on the porch. And for those of you that don't know who Thich Nhat Hanh is, he's a Vietnamese Zen monk. He was actually nominated by Martin Luther King Jr. for the Nobel Peace Prize. So Martin Luther King Jr. is somebody, we have a day for him in our country. He is an icon of peace for us. And he nominated Thich Nhat Hanh for the Nobel Peace Prize, saying this monk really is working for peace in the world, working this time of the Vietnam War. Also, he was a refugee, so trying to find peace and balance and harmony. He was an advocate. They did a lot of projects in Vietnam. A lot of their staff was killed by the army and stuff. So it was really crazy time. And Thich Nhat Hanh was really an advocate for peace in the world, So I went to his hut, and at first I saw him just sitting on the kind of porch of his hut. And I went over to him, and he was staring into space a little bit, and he said to me, "Enjoy the full moon." And he just kind of smiles and looks, and I look where he's looking, and there was a lamp on his porch, and this kind of round globe-like lamp. And I thought, and he was like a poet and an artist kind of, so I was like, it's kind of like a joke, like this moon is being symbolized by this lamp. So I kind of laughed, and I looked over at him, and he's still kind of looking at it, smiling. And I kind of said, he's not joking, that he really wants me to enjoy the moon in this lamp. And that was kind of this interesting first moment in this almost teaching that he gave me, which was something about finding happiness however you can, and being fun and easy, and not even holding on to like, this is a lamp, like let it be the moon, enjoy it, who cares, right? That the happiness of the mind, it's an art. It's just allowing things to be in a way that you can be happy, whatever that means. So we went into his hermitage, and it was me, Thich Nhat Hanh, his attendant, another monk. And we sat down to eat dinner. And the way that they eat, it's silently, right? They're very mindful with their food. Thich Nhat Hanh especially, just very slow, just kind of eating, breathing, eating, Yeah, its main teaching is just kind of being, right? So everything he does is a meditation. He walks slow, he sits, looks, picks up his tea, smiles at the tea, drinks it, feels the warmth of the tea coming down, thankful that I have this tea, puts it down, right? Like a tea meditation, right? Finding happiness in all of these things that he's doing in this state of being. I don't think I understood it completely at the time. And so eventually, by the end of the meal, he looked up at me and he said, you know, practice is a lot like instant noodle soup. And I kind of thought, okay. And he said, you don't have to wait to enjoy. And I kind of looked at him and I said, okay. And then it was, you know, okay, thank you for coming. And that was the dinner. And the next day I met with this monk that had taken me to Thich Nhat Hanh's house. And he said, oh, how was it? How was the dinner? And I said, yeah, you know, Thai said that happiness is like instant noodle soup. You don't have to wait to enjoy. And the monk said, whoa. And I kind of thought about it and I said, yeah, I guess so. And over my next couple months there, this sentence, this kind of little teaching that Thich Nhat Hanh gave me, it kind of slowly was worming its way deeper into my heart until I really understood after a while what he was talking about. And it's that happiness is available at every moment. That a lot of us are practicing in a way to get future results. You know, it's like I also go to the gym, and when I'm in the gym, I'm lifting weights and I'm working out because you want to get more muscles, you want to get stronger. You're doing this practice, you're working towards this future result that you'll get. Whereas meditation, it's actually, if you're practicing correctly, the practice itself should be bringing you into the state of peace. The practice itself should be bringing you into a place where you feel happier, where you feel you're more present, where you're more awake and aware and connected to the present moment in a really deep and full way. So as we practice this practice of presence, it really starts to let the mind see, okay, there is happiness available here, that things are okay, that when I just slow down and I breathe and I look at the trees, or I take a walk in nature, or I look at a loved one, my partner or my child, or I look at somebody, a friend, and I smile at them and I can feel, wow, I'm happy I have them in my life, right? We drink water. So nice to have water, right? Oh, so nice to have this human body that I can move in and do stuff. That there's an endless supply of things to be thankful for, to feel gratitude towards, to feel connected to. To the point that slowly through this really kind of healthy and full contact to the present moment, that addiction of trying to find happiness elsewhere, trying to control things, thinking that something is missing, something is needed, that we're not okay, that the moment's not okay, that we're not good enough, that the moment's not good enough, that we need to be more, that the moment needs to be more, right? All these little mechanisms running in us, they all start to get a little short-circuited, as it were. They start to kind of open up and fall apart because we start to really make this experience that there is nothing really to do, that everything is actually fine and beautiful if we allow it to be, that it's a change of focus, it's a shift of perception, right? You can look at the same situation. Right now, I could sit here and say, man, you know, I wish I had an ice cream, right? I wish I had something. I wish, focusing on the lack of this moment. And you could also sit here and say, my gosh, it's so beautiful. What a beautiful day today. It's warm. I feel good. I'm so lucky to be here in this place, right? Nothing's changed in this moment, but one side of it, I could focus on the lack, what's missing, the pain, right? And on the other side, I could really focus on the beauty, the things I'm thankful for, the good feelings. And this is a little bit of what positive psychology is about, is that by changing our mind, changing the way that we're looking at something, we're actually changing our experience of it. And one could say that then you're actually changing the thing itself. Because if I sat here thinking about all the things that are wrong in this moment, all the things that are missing, you know, kind of sending that vibe out. And also if anybody that comes around they'll kind of get sucked into that with me, and maybe then together we'll start treating the place badly, or we'll start discarding things, or we'll neglect it because it will feel like it's not good enough, or it's kind of whereas if you think that this place is beautiful, that it's almost like heaven on earth here on my balcony, right? Then you start looking, wow, this is all so nice, and you want to keep it clean, and people come and you invite them, please come and sit on my balcony, it's so beautiful here, that you appreciate it. And through your appreciation, the way that you treat it, the way others treat it, the kind of field that you're creating around it, it starts to actually carry that energy, right? It's almost like why we say like home cooked food tastes so much better, right? Because it's made with love, right? That because it carries a certain energy when you take it in. It's like, wow, that it's like that chicken pot pie is actually better than one you bought at the store because there's intention in it, right? So one of the biggest things that I found for myself in overcoming my addictions, and my addictions were various, right? All sorts of different kinds of things. But I really, through my time in the monastery and through retreats, I really got down to this point that every time I was trying to compensate, trying to get out of the present moment, thinking that happiness was somewhere else, that's where my addiction would begin, right? And it would try to follow a similar path, whatever that path looked like, whether it was a food or a drink or an act or a thought. So when I teach this practice of mindfulness and meditation in schools, we also say that a lot of kids who are struggling with opioids, right, this opioid crisis, I really feel that this path of meditation and mindfulness, this is a great support in that, right? This is supportive to slowly feel that things here in this place can be fulfilling, can be good enough, can feel good. That's a huge part of it, right? I'm not going to say that's all of it, that's not the full answer, but it's definitely a part of it. And when you also look around at the world today, what you see is a lot of people in that same boat, that they're not able to really appreciate things. They're not able to drop in with things. They're not able to really respect things and honor things. And that includes respecting each other and honoring each other and other people. And kind of a lot of the disease of this world, this discontentment that feeds itself, that kind of makes things worse and worse, is that people have lost the ability to just really drop in and appreciate and smile and enjoy and feel like things are good enough, this contentment, everything's okay, because that's what peace is, and that's also nonviolence, right? And that's allowing, and that's respecting, and that's this appreciation, right? That's all kind of in the same place. And when we meditate, this is kind of where things start to coalesce. So when we breathe, it's also actually an amazing practice that as you breathe in, you really feel the beauty of that breath. You sometimes I say as you breathe in, you relax, because it's as if you're taking the vessel of the breath and you're putting this everything is okay as it is right now energy in it, and as you're breathing out, you feel everything is okay as it is right now, right? Breathing out, let go, right? Breathing in, feeling the peace of the breath, the beauty of the breath, the joy of the breath, enjoy the breath, right? The mind comes in, right? Breathing out, feeling good, right? Relaxing, enjoying that, using the same method that I've been talking about. But then as your meditation, as your mind starts to concentrate, you apply that to the thing that your mind wants to concentrate on, right? And then if you could breathe and you could feel that joy in the breath, the enjoyment in the breath, the wow, this is all that I need to feel good, the entire mind will just collapse into that one point, right? And that's really what peace is. That's contentment, that's meditation, that everything comes together and unifies and comes into itself, and it really just drops into that everything is okay as it is. This moment is beautiful, this breath is perfect, everything is good, and the mind unifies and feels whole. And I can say to you that when I've had these really deep meditations, and even now pretty much every time I meditate, I'm getting a good chunk of this feeling. But the times that I've really gone deep into this in retreats, when I came out of it, what actually I felt was, this is the feeling that I've been looking for my whole life, actually. That everything I've ever done my whole life, really everything I've ever done, was just trying to get this feeling of completeness, of fullness, of enoughness, of okayness. this feeling that everything is here and now and I don't need anything else. This contentment is all that I'd ever looked for. And I found it in the meditation itself, right? So it's a little bit cliche, but it's honestly the deepest truth that I've come to, is that it's really inside. It's that only when we can let go of everything can we have everything. Yeah, only when we drop the wanting to the outside can the mind feel unified and content and full and whole as it is, right? And that's what mental health actually is. That's what emotional health actually is. That's what spiritual health actually is that deep feeling of connection and unity and oneness and enoughness and completeness. Yeah, on this really deep emotional level, that everything is complete. Yeah, and then everything can just be as it is, and it's still and it's peaceful and it's beautiful, right? And that's kind of the opposite of addiction, right? That's the opposite of thinking. That's the opposite of busyness and stress and worry, right? That's the opposite of all of kind of these painful mental states that we find ourselves in every day, right? The opposite of those is that feeling of total presence and peace. So as I lead the meditation today, let's focus on that process. Let's focus on really feeling and appreciating this moment, this place, this breath, and I'll guide us into that place a little bit as well. So yeah, thank you again for listening and watching this video, and feel free to mention anything you'd like me to talk about in future talks, and thanks again for joining me. Take care.